This brings me to culture. Culture is frequently treated as entertainment, appearing at festivals, tourism events, diplomatic ceremonies, and national celebrations, while being absent from serious conversations about development, governance, and the future of society. This is a mistake, because culture is not merely music, dance, clothing, food and ceremony. Important morality, historical memory, family organization, spirituality, political philosophy, customary law, artistic knowledge, methods of conflict resolution, environmental understanding, and ideas about what constitutes a good human life. Culture tells the people who they are and provides the intellectual and moral vocabulary through which people understand birth and death, childhood and adulthood, marriage and family, authority and responsibility, suffering and hope. Always be fully translated into another language. When a language disappears, humanity does not merely lose a method of communication. Humanity loses a distinctive way of understanding the world. We must therefore ask ourselves difficult questions about how many African children can speak the languages of their grandparents fluently. How many, and I must confess, my children have been taught how to speak, and now they are speaking Chief regularly. When they were young, they thought they were American and British, but now they know that they are Ghanaians. And then how many understand the histories of their towns and families? How many know the meanings carried by the symbols of their communities? And how many can interpret the proverb that once educated generations in ethics, responsibility, and social conduct? We cannot leave the answers to chance. Cultural preservation must become part of serious educational policy. Universities, traditional practice, museums, families, churches, community institutions, and governments must work together to document endangered knowledge, record oral histories, preserve archives, and train younger generations to integrate their heritage. Technology must become an ally of cultural preservation. Our generation has tools that those before us could scarcely imagine, allowing voices that once existed only in human memory to be preserved, manuscripts to be digitized, historical photographs to be restored and archived, oral histories to be recorded, and endangered languages to be documented and taught across continents. Exploitation must, however, remain ethical, because not every sacred object, ritual, or body or traditional knowledge is intended for unrestricted circulation. Cultural knowledge has of dignity and meaning. It is within this discussion of history and identity that we must confront the experience of the global African diaspora. The diaspora emerged through several historical processes. Some Africans left the continent voluntarily in pursuit of education, commerce, employment, and opportunity. In contrast, millions of others were forcibly removed through systems of enslavement that inflicted immeasurable suffering upon Africa and its descendants. The transatlantic slave trade separated families, disrupted societies, and transported generations of African men, women, and children into systems that sought not only their labor but their humanity. The consequences of that history did not disappear with the abolition of slavery. They remain visible in questions of race, inequality, economic exclusion, cultural displacement, and the continuing struggle for equal citizenship and dignity. Yet the history of the African diaspora cannot be written only as a history of victimhood, because it is also a history of survival, resistance, intellectual achievement, political courage, scientific innovation, and cultural creativity. Those who crossed the Atlantic under conditions of extreme violence carried more than their bodies. They carried memory, spirituality, rhythm, agricultural knowledge, artistic traditions, and ideas about family and community. And the conditions designed to raise them, they recreated themselves. And across Americas, the Caribbean, Europe, and elsewhere, African-descended communities transformed societies that had often denied them equality. The diaspora gave the world physicians, scientists, judges, political leaders, intellectuals, artists, educators, freedom fighters, entrepreneurs, and builders of institutions. It participated in movements against slavery, colonialism, segregation, apartheid, and racial injustice, supported struggles for African independence, and helped turn the liberation of Africa into global cause. Africa and its diaspora, therefore, owe one another a depth of recognition, and the relationship cannot be understood as one in which Africa provides ancestral identity, while the diaspora provides financial resources. That would be an incomplete interpretation of a profound historical relationship. We are participants in one historical conversation. Ghana has played an important role in efforts to rebuild these relationships, and initiatives such as the Year of Return and Beyond the Return have encouraged people of African descent to visit Ghana and reconnect with the continent. These initiatives have been valuable, but the relationship must now move beyond ceremonial homecoming. A photograph at a historic site does not by itself create belonging. An African name does not by itself create belonging. And attendance at a festival does not by itself create belonging. Belonging is created through relationships, understanding, responsibility, and sustained participation. The Akan concept of Sankofa invites us to return and retrieve what is valuable from the past. But Sankofa does not ask us to remain permanently facing backwards. To recover memory, to move into the future with greater wisdom. And the next phase of African diaspora relations must therefore move from symbolic return towards substantive partnership. Diaspora communities should not be regarded simply as sources of remittances, tourism, investment, or expertise, because they are part of the wider African historical family. Many seek not only commercial opportunity, but dignity, understanding, relationships, and meaningful participation. At the same time, reconnection must be approached with humility on all sides, because Africa is not culturally uniform. Ghana is not a single historical community, and the continent contains many peoples, languages, political traditions, and experiences. Identities formed in the Americas, the Caribbean, and Europe under slavery, segregation, and racial discrimination developed within circumstances different from those in which ethnic, linguistic, and national identities developed within Africa. We must therefore listen to one another. Continental Africans must listen seriously to the experiences of racial injustice, cultural displacement, and historical dispossession carried by the diaspora communities. At the same time, members of the diaspora must also listen to Africa's experiences of colonialism, political struggle, poverty, state building, conflict, and development. Neither side should claim exclusive ownership of African identity. We must meet as relatives separated by history, now with the opportunity to construct a shared future. Traditional leadership. Traditional leadership can contribute significantly to this process because traditional institutions carry historical continuity in ways that governments cannot always provide. Governments can create diplomatic frameworks, immigration systems, investment policies, and legal structures, while traditional institutions can provide cultural interpretation, community entry, historical context, and a sense of belonging. The responsibility must, however, be exercised with integrity. The reconnection of the African family must never become a marketplace in which belonging is sold. Traditional titles must not become commercial rewards. Historical claims must not be invented to satisfy emotional expectations. And sacred institutions should not be trivialized for tourism or spectacle. To be received into an African community is to enter a relationship, and every meaningful relationship carries responsibilities. If the diaspora is to reconnect meaningfully with Africa, then reconnection should contribute to education, cultural preservation, enterprise, community development, scholarship, and mutual understanding. Traditional institutions can help establish processes for community engagement and protect diaspora visitors and investors from exploitation. Still, traditional leaders must also protect local communities from arrangements that disregard their rights and livelihoods. The objective must be shared and sustainable prosperity. This naturally brings us to the university's responsibility. Universities are among the great custodians of civilization. They preserve knowledge, interrogate assumptions, challenge falsehood, train professionals, and shape the intellectual imagination of society. But universities must also learn to listen. For too long, some African systems of knowledge entered academic institutions only after they had been reinterpreted elsewhere. Knowledge preserved orally was sometimes dismissed as inferior to knowledge preserved in writing. While African institutions were often studied through conceptual categories that engaged insufficiently with African societies themselves. This imbalance must be corrected without abandoning academic rigor. The elder who preserves the history of a community, the queen mother who understands the structure of the royal family, the linguist who preserves court language, the farmer who understands the local ecological system, and the customary authority who has spent decades resolving disputes may possess forms of knowledge worthy of serious scholarly attention. Such knowledge must not be romanticized. It should be examined critically. Historical claims must be investigated, evidence must matter, and contradictions must be acknowledged. Yet, intellectual rigor, intellectual respect are not enemies. The university and the college should not exist in separate worlds. The university can assist traditional institutions in documenting histories, preserving archives, strengthening administration and evaluating development programs, and preparing younger generations for leadership. In contrast, traditional institutions can help universities understand the cultural, moral, and historical environments within which African societies operate. Scholarship within community. Scholarship without community can become detached. Tradition without scholarship can become vulnerable to distortion. When the two cooperate, knowledge becomes both rigorous and socially meaningful. It is in this spirit that I believe Howard University, Ghanaian institutions and traditional authorities can build a serious program of intellectual cooperation. There is room for sustained comparative research into traditional constitutionalism, customary law, mediation, restorative justice, land governance, the role of queen mothers, environmental stewardship, and community mobilization. There is room for a major program of digital heritage preservation that connects archives, oral histories, royal records, manuscripts, and endangered cultural knowledge. There is room for student and faculty exchanges in which young people encounter African societies and diaspora communities not merely as visitors, but as learners and contributors. There is room for professional partnerships that link physicians, lawyers, engineers, academics, artists, historians, entrepreneurs, and community leaders across the African world. And there is also room for an enduring Howard-Manhyia dialogue through which scholars and traditional leaders might examine the most important questions confronting governance, culture, and African diaspora relations. Our objective should not be to celebrate traditional institutions uncritically, but to study them seriously, because neither modern institutions nor traditional institutions should fear examination, and truth strengthens institutions that deserve to survive. I wish to finally address the young people present here, and through you, young people throughout the African world. You are heirs to a history that contains both extraordinary suffering and extraordinary achievement. And you have inherited technological possibilities that earlier generations could scarcely have imagined. Within seconds, you can connect Accra to Washington, Kumasi with Kingston, Lagos with London, and Johannesburg with Toronto. But technological connection is not the same as human unity. Unity requires knowledge, trust, discipline, and responsibility. Do not allow yourself to define Africa entirely. Do not allow others to define Africa entirely for you. Study its history in its complexity. Learn its languages. Examine its institutions. Understand its achievements and failures. And do not approach culture only through fashion, music, and social media. However valuable these expressions may be, heritage requires deeper engagement. At the same time, you should not accept every inherited practice without question. Yes, because respect for tradition does not require intellectual silence. Ask questions, investigate claims, challenge injustice, preserve what is valuable, correct what must be corrected, and not add to the inheritance through your own creativity. The future of African culture will not be secured by elders alone. It will be secured when young people discover within their inheritance intellectual and moral resources that help them confront the problems of their own generation. You are not required to choose between being modern and being African. You may be a scientist, physician, engineer, lawyer, whatever, scholar of the highest international standard, and remain deeply grounded in the cultural inheritance from which you emerged. Indeed, the greatest contribution Africa can make to the world will not come from imitating others perfectly, but from participating confidently in global civilization by contributing knowledge, institution values and creativity that arise from our own historical experience. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, perhaps what we ultimately require is a new conception of global African responsibility. National citizenship will remain important. A Ghanaian remains a Ghanaian. An African American remains American. A Jamaican remains Jamaican. And a Brazilian of African descent remains Brazilian. Beyond these national identities, however, there can exist a moral consciousness that recognizes a shared historical connection and shared responsibility for the future. That responsibility includes preserving memory, strengthening education, opposing racism, expanding opportunity, developing African institutions, promoting ethical investment, supporting scholarships, and defending human dignity wherever it is threatened. Such unity must never become hostility towards others. The suffering contained within African history should not teach us hatred. It should teach us justice. Our historical experience should make us defenders of dignity, not only for Africans, but for humanity. The relationship between Ghana, Africa, and the global African diaspora must therefore be founded on more than ancestry alone. Ancestry tells us that we are connected, while responsibility tells us that we must do with that connection, what we must do with that connection. We must move from occasional visits to enduring institutions, from symbolic embrace to intellectual cooperation, from nostalgia to development, from the language of return to the practice of belonging, from remembering shared suffering to building shared strength, from sentiment to structure, from memory to responsibility, from connection to collaboration, and from a shared path towards a deliberately constructed future. There is an African proverb which says, "You are project from Ebu," meaning that when a single tree stands alone against the storm, it may fall. The strength of the forest lies not in the isolation of its trees, but in the relationship among them. Their trunks may stand separately and their branches may grow in different directions, but beneath the soil their roots strengthen the same earth. So it is with the global African family. Our nations are different, our histories have followed different paths, our cultures have developed into different circumstances, and our experiences are not identical. Our features can be strengthened through deliberate cooperation. There's another proverb. In Sabakon Kata Nyamieni, meaning that one hand cannot lift a heavy load. The work before us is too great for one nation, one university, one government, and one traditional institution or one generation. Africa cannot undertake it without its diaspora. The diaspora cannot undertake it without meaningful engagement with Africa. Traditional leadership cannot undertake it without scholars and young people. Universities cannot undertake it without communities. And governments alone cannot undertake it without the confidence and participation of the citizens. We must therefore live the load together, preserving culture not because we are afraid of the future, but because a people who understand themselves can enter the future with confidence. Strengthening governance, not simply to make institutions more efficient, but to make authority more accountable, humane and just, and ensuring that traditional leadership remains worthy of respect by making service, integrity, and responsibility the foundations of its legitimacy. Let us strengthen the bonds between Ghana and the global African diaspora, not merely through ceremonies and declarations, but through scholarship, education, investment, cultural preservation, service, enterprise, healing, and enduring human relationships. Let the palace and the university meet not as rivals, but as partners in the pursuit of knowledge. And let Africa and its diaspora meet not simply as people reunited by memory, but as partners committed to building institutions that would outlive us. Let our young people inherit not only the stories of what our ancestors endured, but also the confidence to create what our ancestors could only imagine. Let the memory of separation inspire the labor of reunion, and let the wisdom of the past guide us with while the future remains the principal object of our work. May Howard University continue to uphold truth, serve with intellectual courage, and may the partnership between Ghana and the global African diaspora grow from strength to strength. May our traditional institutions remain living sources of wisdom, responsibility, and unity. May the generations that come after us look back this period and say that we did more than speak of African unity. We gave it institutions. May they say that we did more than preserve the memory of our ancestors and enlarge their inheritance. May they say that when history allowed our generation to reconnect the African world, we did not waste it. May Almighty God bless our university, bless the global African family, bless the United States of America, and bless the Republic of Ghana, and bless us all. Thank you very much.
Your Majesty, you underscored the critical importance of accountability as it is related to governance. A key takeaway for me was when you talked about wisdom being shared, which is exactly what happens on campus at the HU. And we are so eternally grateful for your presence here this evening. Thank you so much for imparting such wisdom. Before we depart, we have a couple of things we want to give you first, and we know that a representative from the kingdom will come. First, we have our provost who wants to share something before we close, and then we will be followed by two other of our fellow Black stars.
We know it has been said that the most valuable thing that God has given to each of us is our spirit to connect with Him. But aside from that, the next most valuable thing that he has given each of us is time. And so, on behalf of the entire Howard University, we want to give you this gift of a Howard University clock, which will memorialize the time that you have spent with us this evening.
Thank you so much, Provost. Next, we have Congressman Gabe Amo, who proudly represents Rhode Island's 1st Congressional District, but he also represents Ghana. He is a lifelong public servant, a dear friend and colleague of mine. He served in the Biden White House and the Obama White House, and he understands the critical importance of intergovernmental affairs like no other. Congressman, please join us.
Your Majesty, that was a remarkable address. I'm so humbled, proud, and honored to be here with you. I come to you as a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. And as a voice for Black Americans, we're also a voice for Black people, people of African descent around the world. And in that capacity, I'm proud to join, but also proud to join as a proud Ghanaian with Ashanti roots. And so I want to present this certificate of special recognition, this proclamation to His Majesty, Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, Asantehemaa, in recognition of your distinguished service to the people of Ghana and your enduring commitment to unity, progress, and strengthening connections throughout the global diaspora. Thank you for embodying a tradition of service that reaches across generations and borders. Through philanthropy, cultural stewardship, and collaboration, you have uplifted lives and fostered a lasting sense of connection among Ghanaians throughout the world. On behalf of the people I represent in Rhode Island's 1st Congressional District, and on behalf of the entirety of the Congressional Black Caucus, I extend my heartfelt appreciation and best wishes for continued success and prosperity, progress for all of us, and especially for you as you carry on your great work. Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, is my adopted son, the new president of the Ghanaian Student Union, Chris Yao Jr. Is a Dean's List student here at Howard University. He too is Asante, and he is the 17th Howard University Mr. African Student Association, and he has been a perfect partner in working on this event. So son, please do your presentation.
Ago! Ago! Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Apia, a rising junior, political science and criminology double major from Queens, New York, by way of Kumasi, Ghana. And I currently have the opportunity of serving as the current 2026 to 2027 Ghanaian Student Union president as well. Your Majesty, as a proud member of the Asante tribe and the sitting president of the Howard University Ghanaian Student Union, it It is truly an honor to present to you this gift on behalf of the entire GSU. It symbolizes the unity, pride, and commitment we share as Ghanaian students at Howard University, who strive to cultivate an environment where we can build meaningful relations and support the overall growth of the Ghanaian community here in DC. We consistently seek to share and celebrate the richness of Ghanaian culture on campus and with the broader Washington, D.C. environment as well too. Your presence here today is a powerful reminder of the very values we strive to uphold here at the Mecca and in every room we enter. Again, a tumfo Nana Osei Tutu II, Akwaba and Yedawase.
On behalf of Otumfo, Asantehemaa, and the delegation, I stand to say a big thank you for the wonderful present that you have given us. It will be served as a lasting memento of our visit to Howard University. And it's going to mark beginnings of a long-standing relationship between Manhyia Palace and Howard University. Our lady here said the key takeaway that she had from Otumfo's lecture is many and profound. And I think the key takeaway that we also have is the Africanness of Howard University. And Manhyia Palace will do everything in its power to ensure the continuity of this Africanness. And I think there should be a reciprocal relationship from Howard University to Manhyia, so that in the long run, in Sako and Saba, the hand go, the hand come, and the going and coming makes the cross weaving more heavy. Thank you very much.
What an enlightening evening we have had. I just want to thank you all for coming one more time on behalf of the Millennium Excellence Foundation and on behalf of the university. Dr. Hope will just thank the sponsors of the evening, and we will leave united, energized, and ready to do the hard work of ensuring that we are all globally united as African people.
For your leadership and partnership in bringing this event to fruition. My name is Dr. Tania Hope. I am the Assistant Provost for International Programs and the Executive Director of the Ralph J. Bunch International Affairs Center here at Howard University. And on behalf of the university, I thank you all for coming tonight. And I would like to especially thank my colleagues from the Center for African Studies, the Department of African Studies, two different things, the Department of Afro-American Studies, the Moreland Spingarn Research Center, the Ghanaian Student Union, the Ralph Bunch International Affairs Center, and my colleagues there in particular, thank you, and the Office of the Provost. This was a joint effort, a community effort, and we're so glad that you have been able to share this evening with us. Thank you to Your Majesty for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to welcoming you again. Thank you all very much.
What a profound lecture. And I hope that every one of us took notes on our phones, on papers, because I had two things. Tikro and Quaid. And Tikro and Quaid. And also, wisdom is shared, it doesn't reside in the head of one. And I was on the collective measure of our wisdom. Let us see every problem. Thank you for
Asante.